white people, a lot of them, maybe not most of them, I don't know the statistics, but a lot of them want to victimize themselves because they feel that something's being taken away from them when things are being given to people like us. It's good.
To be fair to white people, right?
We are.
I'm gonna be a very subtle white, not sympathizing, but just to, I think you have to look at issues and problems as they are and be able to address them accurately. So as a white person, you went through a country that treated you like you were God to everything else, and then 60 years ago was like, nope, these niggas is on your side now too, and you better treat them as such. That's a jarring change for a white person. I'm not excusing the treatment or response to it, but Ta-Nehisi Coates talks about this. In order to have conversations with them, to bring them to the middle, you have to acknowledge that their experience was like, oh, you're telling me something that was once property is now on my level. So when you're talking to them, you have to keep that in mind so that you use the right verbiage, the right rhetoric, so that you can capture their attention and hopefully move them to the proper direction. Because the goal, I don't think, is to prove a point. The goal is to change the narrative, to change the treatment. So I don't really care about points being made. If you're going to change your behavior, and I can have a conversation with you, dialogue to walk you more towards this side, and if it means I could be slight, if I could change the verbiage slightly to get you there, I'm okay with that.
I agree with changing the narrative, but to bring myself down, okay, I'm sorry. I agree with changing the narrative, but I disagree with formulating my, when I verbalize what I feel is right for me, and I'm communicating that to a white person, I don't feel that I need to put it into their terms so that they can be better. It's not my job to help them be better.
It's not your job to help them be better, but again, you're trying to make a point, and like with them, and that's fine. I think points need to be made and should be made. I think we have to have both types of conversations, but there's at some point the conversation has to have direction. There has to be a goal, and I don't think the goal is for us to be like, haha, I'm right, you're wrong, got you. The more so the goal is to, I need your behavior to change. Like blackness in America isn't going to shift without white change, period. So I think I'm not saying you have to change or like dumb down your verbiage, but if saying black resonates better with like a white audience than Negro, use black. That's the type of like verbiage shifts that I'm talking about. I'm not talking about changing your goal, but just words that might be like less buzzwords for them to shut down.
I would say that I'm of the belief that we've had this conversation repeatedly. We're going back to Booker T. Washington and the Atlantic Compromise. We were constantly having to shift and decide whether we want to be the talented or we want to just create our own industries. And even that itself is a dichotomous, black and white conversation. We don't have to curry favor for these people.
What makes you say you don't have to?
I'm saying that because that's self-determinism.
That's not self-determinism. That's not dealing with reality. Because the reality of the situation is you do have to deal with them in the way because they do control your autonomy isn't as free as you think. There's been a lot of progress in Booker T and W. Du Bois on the talented concept. He disputed right before he died because it was a fourth concept. Right? And Booker T talks about there is a level of assimilation that is needed in order for progress to be made. It's not to change your focus or your person or your identity, but you cannot move into a space and just destroy the ideology all at once. That's why Dr. King went about the way he did. That's why Malcolm X went about the way he did. He was very stark, and he shifted because it was like, oh shit, I'm trying to get them to behave differently. I'm not really trying to prove my point. My point is history proves my point for me. I need them to change their behavior. So if it means, all right, let me stop saying white devil, I'm going to stop saying white devil. And he did that when he went on the Hajj and saw that there was white Muslims and all these other things. So even he understood that he had to, let me dial it back a little bit. His message?
I'm clear about the variations and the tone and the semantics that we may have to use. But I'm also clear about the demarcation lines that I've drawn for myself in educating myself about the proximity in which we live to these people. And the language that they speak is a language of violence. It's a language that clearly says that European culture utilizes everything. How should I put this? European culture weaponizes everything. And despite our proximity, despite our language and how we utilize it to showcase to them how good human beings we may be, of course we're going to understand the dynamics of being strategic about moving in close proximity to them. But at some point, we have to decide that we do not want to live in a plantation construct.
Just going back to like your original point, I think you can tell me if I'm wrong. This is what she was trying to say. I think there's a certain amount of we can't give white people too much grace, and I think that happens a lot of times where we try to say things a different way. We may try to change how we look. We may try to to make them more comfortable. And I think we can't go through life trying to always make white people comfortable, because then we diminish ourselves, and that happens a lot of black people in white spaces, because then it's like sometimes they can't even recognize who they are anymore because they've been trying to appease, accommodate them.
Can I give you some pushback? Mm-hmm. You work in any space where you have to like teach kids or teach anybody anything, like at the first retreat you have. So when you're teaching somebody something that they don't know or understand, what do you do? Do you meet them where they are, or do you stay in this space and use your verbiage? So
I was a teacher's assistant before my career now. So what I would do is I would try to meet them where they are so they could understand me. Exactly. But that's a child I'm dealing with.
Yeah. But
it's a difference.
But some of these ideologies are childlike. They have a childlike and immature nature. So,
but I think the comment you made in terms where you say that we have to change our verbiage is triggering. Because when you say that, you look at it like, me as an African American, I have to change my language so that they can understand me. When you look at it towards how they can embrace and understand a lot, and I don't want to be canceled, but it's always cancel culture. But it's like when they see other races, other sexualities, they're quick to understand and empathize with other races, like even with the Asian race when COVID happened, when everybody was attacking a lot of Asians. They made bills for them, they changed it. They were so quick to do that. But when you hear you say, you have to change your verbiage. I'm not from this country, so I say this because a lot of African Americans, they say they struggle. I have a girlfriend of mine where she feels she would never want her son to bring home a white woman because she saw her grandfather was lynched. Or her great-grandfather, I should say, was lynched. They saw a lot of stuff growing up in the South. So there's stuff like I won't understand, but for them it was a lot of struggle. They saw so much hate towards them, and they can't understand that. So for her to be like, wait, I have to change my language or just change for them to understand me, when right now, in the community right now, you could see them, they've adapted to a lot of Asian cultures, they embrace them, they adapted to LGBTQI communities, they've embraced them, so why can't they meet me and understand my pain and why I suffered what we suffer?
Because unfortunately, that's where we are with the relationship.
But they just choose not to.
But I think you're taking like what not you in particular. I think it's like taking what I said and like drawing a conclusion that wasn't. So like the rhetoric I'm talking about is the same rhetoric any black leader that is speaking publicly uses to direct a message to masses. You have to change the rhetoric so it's digestible. That's all I'm talking about.
No, I hear what you're saying.
I'm not saying
it's triggering sometimes to some people.
It's triggering and jarring, but this is why rhetoric is important. So I could have said that better so that you received my message better, which I think sort of proves my point, is that in order to drive what I meant, I had an intention that was missed because I used the wrong words. So I could have used better verbiage so that you understood what I meant a little bit, so there wasn't a back and forth. And that's more so what I'm talking about. Is like there are ways to have the conversation to build a better connecting points between people so that you can have a dialogue. I'm not saying to dumb down your blackness. That wasn't even close to what I said.
I think that depends.
But I think you can have a conversation that's better.